Hey everyone, Andrew and Adam here with It Takes Two Takes. We're going to talk about episode 4, season 2 of The Boys, brought to you by Almond Joy, everyone's favorite serial killer treat. Right, Adam?
Sure. I don't know that I've ever actually had Almond Joy, but
No one has. Exactly. It was a really good observation played into the story on this episode. But I to kick this off, I would simply say that this was a good character-centric episode. I think there's really a few key things that we could talk about. And I don't know if you had anything on your agenda, Adam. If you want to kick it off, I'm happy to bring up something if you'd like.
The biggest thing I think overall, this was very much a plot-driven episode, right? There's very little action in this. This is very much about character growth and moving the plot along. This is not anything about let's do a bunch of action shots or anything like that, right? So very, very little body count in this one.
And I loved it all the same, to be honest.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. There's a lot of plot that gets unleashed in this episode. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah, I think for the most part, Stormfront kind of took a back seat where we thought she was kind of the big threat, and she still is by all means. But from a ticking time bomb standpoint, we spent a little bit more time with Homelander this episode, I think is where I was going with it. I mean, getting into his psyche.
As scary that is.
Right. Everything from binging through memes of himself to really finding someone like Doppelganger to take on whatever he wants, whether he wants it or not in the end, as we saw. I don't even know how far to go with that one, but there's so many great moments with Homelander.
And that moment threw me off so much, right? When he goes to the cabin, because at first when he lands, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, he's visiting his son. And then it's like, wait, this doesn't look like that house.
Yeah, and I was like, is this a flashback? What is happening?
Then he goes in, and next thing you see is Elizabeth Shue come out. I'm like, all right, now you're fucking with me now.
Right.
Because now I'm not sure what the fuck is going on. You're fucking with me. So it wasn't until Doppelganger ran out of energy, more or less, and lost form.
Homelander's reaction, the way he sat up, like, I can't look. The performance by Anthony Starr, like, in that moment was so... I mean, really the whole episode, but that moment just cracked me up.
Well, and then it's like, as soon, even once Doppelganger went back, it's like, Homelander's just kind of like, yeah, you killed the moment, right?
While we're on the topic, to jump ahead, even the moment where Doppelganger became Homelander to seduce Homelander, that was just, there's so many levels of interesting in that scene as well. And if not only to say that I didn't realize it until it was happening, like, this is, I think, the first time we've even seen Homelander not in costume or uniform. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen him in, like, his actual arms before. You know what I mean? Things like that. It was a very, you could pick that apart all day, to be honest, that whole sequence there.
And yeah, it was really interesting. I thought it was great. The whole, it's not gay if it's yourself, that.
And honestly, that moment I feel like is where Homelander kind of turned. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's what almost took him out of it.
But that
you can't tell me that,
That moment was also after, like, the first time we see Doppelganger acting like Elizabeth Shue is before, Homelander has that conversation with Stormfront, right? And
right.
It's not until, because up to that point, you're just feeling like Homelander just needs somebody to love him, right? Elizabeth Shue's character in the first season was kind of like a mother-like character. And so he just was looking for someone to love. And I think Stormfront picked up on that. And it was just like, you don't need people to love you, right? And I think, so the second time around, it's after Stormfront has kind of messed with his mind a little bit.
I did wonder that, like, had that conversation with Stormfront not happened, would Homelander have been banging Homelanders?
If we flip to the other side, to the boys' side,
yeah,
Billy finding out where his wife is, and then breaking into the location. We got a lot of great information during that whole part, right? Besides Billy getting laid, there was a lot of info we got during that scene.
And that scene, when you had mentioned there might be some people that find this episode, let's say, for paraphrasing, but like maybe a little slow if they're more keen on the action sequences and things progressing forward from a physical conflict standpoint or what have you. that was the first thing that came to my mind. Anyone that thinks that, they finally get the moment of Billy and his wife reconnecting. And that's really what the entire first season from Billy's character standpoint was really, it was built around, and we got it. So hopefully there's some consolation there if you felt it was lacking in terms of, in the action department.
Yeah, and I think with that scene, we learned so much, right? So the first season, Homelander makes it sound like his stuff with Becca was consensual, and, everyone else says it's not consensual. So this time we finally hear Becca say that he raped her, right?
Right.
But then we get another side of that where she pretty much says, I was raped by her and I didn't come to you. It really kind of shone a light of the idea that Billy wasn't probably stable before the stuff with Becca went down, right? And that's what she was really kind of saying is she knew he would snap if he found out, because she already knew he was unstable. And so she kept it from him and didn't come to him about it, right? And what happened? He ended up snapping. So either way, he was going to snap, right? So yeah, I think you got a lot of great information. And then, when he goes and he hooks up with her, you're sitting there thinking, well, okay, how does he end up getting back with the boys? And she gave him that out by saying, you don't want kids, let alone a soup, right? And he even said the kid was a soup freak.
Right.
So you get the idea that relationship probably not going to work at this point, because she is all about her son, and he is definitely not about that son.
At this point, let's call it maybe on pause. Billy's got unfinished business. She's got unfinished business with raising a child, right?
Right.
They clearly still love one another. So I think it was a good moment, and it worked for the overall story. I think the Billy Butcher and his wife thing is really the theme of the episode, because it's Frenchie. It's a lot of
relationships. It's a lot of relationships.
Really relationships.
Yeah, it was a relationship episode.
You've got Homelander. You've got Homelander playing the wife. You've got the Deep. He wanted one person and he was told to go elsewhere.
I thought it was my choice.
Again,
it is your choice, and you're choosing this person, right? Very much
a cult answer, right?
Right. Very much cult attitude of, well, yes, we know that's what you want, but no, what you really want is this person, right? Frenchie tried to make a move, got shut down, then went back to an ex to get his jollies and got put in his place. He had Starlight and Homelander confrontation in the elevator, where she's got to pretty much, tell Homelander she's not part of the, she's not with Huey, very convincingly, and then goes off and sees Huey, and then goes on the road trip, where we finally, from the trailer, they used the song in the trailer, and they used it in the road trip, the We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. But then we get, the typical Huey Starlight kind of relationship parts where, they're attracted to each other, they hook up, and then afterwards, we probably shouldn't have done that. But the biggest part of that whole thing, because you get a little bit of turmoil with her, right? There's the car accident, and they have to tell her, no, you can't go help. I know you're a super, and I know that's what you're trained for, but you can't go help, right? And then, we think this road trip is to go find this old soup, Liberty, and that's not who they found.
In hindsight, I should have seen that coming, by the way. The fact that it was Stormfront all along. And I was trying to piece it together prior to it, just the way she carries herself. And then I thought about the fact that her first go-to reference is Pippi Longstocking. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm in my mid-30s. I know who Pippi Longstocking is. The reference wasn't lost on me, but it's not my go-to reference for many things in my generation, at least. So I didn't think of it then, but looking back, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they left a few clues, but yeah, the way they framed the episode was, we're going to go talk to Liberty, right? Maybe Liberty's the next soup that worked with Vought, maybe she'll have some dirt, whatever, and that's not what we got at all. Last 3 episodes were very, very much
exposition. We give you the action, we give you a little bit of everything, just to satisfy everyone. Now let's take a breather. And I think that's important, especially when you're almost midway through the season. Well, you are.
We are at this point.
Through the season. Yeah. And I have to praise, honestly, the way that on the forefront of this episode, they really just called out the diversity of the 7, A-Train and Black Noir and
Right.
It was one of my favorite scenes was Homelander going through that list. I go, Black Noir. He doesn't identify with anyone, but we got that going for it. Like that's such a great.
And
scene.
then we also got Black Noir wanting to track down
Yes.
Butcher. We don't know why. We saw in the previous episodes, Black Noir took the news of Compound V a lot harder than a lot of the others did, right?
You bring up a really good point about that because I wonder the same thing. Where do his loyalties lie at this point? The Compound V reveal should have clued us into something, but is it with Vought? Is it with Homelander? Is he essentially going rogue? What is his intention? Of course, we don't know, especially because he doesn't talk.
Right.
But
he wanted
interesting.
Right. He wanted Butcher. We don't know if he's looking to join up or if he's looking to take him out. There was so many just like little points in this episode that as you kind of put them all together, I think in the long run is going to really play out well with the series, right? There was just a lot of, you had Queen Mav being outed as being gay, right?
Yeah.
And
That was a big
Homelander,
moment.
reacting a lot differently than she expected. Now, that's not to say Homelander's not going to do something still.
No matter what, he makes you uneasy. No matter what he says.
But he outed her, and that was the first time she found out he even knew, and happened all on TV, right?
Yeah.
And then you got Stormfront, who's outside of Vought, leading protests against the Seven.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like she's leading the protests for Supes. She's leading the protests anti-Vought, anti-Seven. I mean, she's ragging on her own team. You could tell there's a little bit of fear in her because as soon as Homelander did the red eyes, she changed her tune. She was mouthing off to him left and right. And as soon as she realized she drew past the line, she's like, oh, whoa, friends. We're friends. Never mind the fact she had just got done trashing him in public, right?
It seemed genuine because I that moment kind of struck me as well. It seemed genuine, her complete backpedaling and sort of trepidation on the path she was going down in that moment. But she's been around long enough. It's very possible she's very good at what she's doing. And I think, and I can only theorize, that this whole creating sort of this, let's call it an implosion, but no matter what, you're dividing people. You're creating conflict just by existing. It's almost very like applicable to just today's political climate, just the completely opposing sides and just creating the chaos.
Right.
And I don't know where it ends, but I know that she's got a very clear agenda. Again, she's been clearly around long enough where I think she knows what she's doing. So I'm very curious to see where it's all leading to.
When I noticed one of the protest signs actually said, I want my Compound V. Yeah. So that's the other part is now that people know that you can become a Supe by getting Compound V.
Yeah.
Now I think that's another part of the story that they really haven't dived into a lot, which is the public wanting to become superheroes themselves. Like this is now a marketable product almost. Like, hey, become a superhero, take some Compound V.
You have to wonder, amongst all of this, is that part of what Black Noir's after? The fact that struck him, it seemed like in that moment, it hit him. Is he going to go to Billy Butcher, almost like a sort of mercenary approach to say this needs to be addressed, or is it going to be Stormfront? I can't imagine that she wants everyone to become Supes. No. I can't imagine that really any of them do, except for the Deep. I don't think he cares about much else.
You mentioned this character before, and I think we should touch on it real quick. Is A-Train's out of the Seven?
He is, but it makes me wonder. They didn't really completely wrap this up. The moment that I feel like Homelander realized he had to address the diversity, right? Because whoever was going to replace A-Train, it was a white guy. And I have to imagine that in that moment, he had to recover and say, well, we've got A-Train. So either it's A-Train coming back, he's going to completely backpedal and manipulate him, or he's going to find some other means to fulfill the diversity criticism.
Right.
I don't know.
But right now, the way at least the episode left it was that A-Train's out. He is slowed down.
By the way, I think A-Train's going to feel a little embittered.
He's slowed down. Well, it makes me wonder because, the Compound V is what made him have the heart problems to begin with. So what's his solution for that? So, I mean, that could be an interesting arc to dive into as well of what happens to him. I mean, the Seven is falling apart, really. Let's face it. That's really what a lot of the episode highlighted in a lot of ways for me. You know, the
Agreed.
team
Yeah.
isn't acting like a team, right? The last episode, they acted as a team to go hunt down the super villain or super terrorist, depending on who you ask.
Yep.
But now that that's over, they're all over the place, and that could make for some interesting, second half of this season, really.
Yeah, I feel like it's essential as you kind of build into the climax of Act 2 and really figure out how to deal with the end of this season. I think people are going to look back and find this episode very essential if they're not already thinking that. So
Right.
I enjoyed it. Was it one of the best? I don't think so. But I think it feels like it was very necessary. I certainly got a lot out of it. If nothing else, for just to see some sort of a level of resolution with Butcher and his wife, that whole journey.
Yeah.
And there's more to come, right? But it kind of tied some loose ends as far as the cliffhanger they left us on. And really the last 3 episodes, we've been waiting for this moment to happen in this season. So
Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers it. At least this episode. We'll do another one next week for the next episode. And if you like this video, go ahead and like it and share it. Like, if you actually are enjoying our channel, please share our videos, right? Let's get some more people looking at them. And
I'm okay if you share it and you hate it. It's just, sharing it's always good.
yeah, if you want to hate share
You
it,
hate it
that's
so
fine
much
too.
you want to tell everybody about it. Just share it while you do that.
Right. We got plenty of other episodes you can hate on also and hate share. So
Maybe you love Almond Joy. Like, share just the plug that we gave in the beginning of this. We're not doing this for monetization. Just shares.
go ahead and subscribe if you want to, be part of our channel, and leave some comments if you have other thoughts on this episode that we missed. Some Easter eggs, little tidbits we didn't mention. Go ahead and comment about it. And we'll talk to you next week.